Okay, here's the plan in brief up front. Number 1, create a network of nearly car-free streets for pedestrians, cyclists, and other micromobility to move throughout the entire city quickly, easily, and safely. Number 2, create a nearly car-free zone in every neighborhood in its restaurant and shop-heavy core to improve business and quality of life. Number 3, daylight every single street corner. Number 4, electrified, docked micromobility available to all. We'll get into the actual physical materials and techniques needed to build these things, with an emphasis on extremely quick and cheap build plans, but we also need to talk about the political ability to build them for just a moment, and more specifically the 2 cardinal sins of New York City urban planning. And that's the DOT's emphasis on what's called level of service, and also, of course, its everlasting worship of parking. Both of these things need to change. Now, level of service essentially means the amount of cars we can cram through this space as fast as possible. City engineers and planners are products of the profession, and it's practiced everywhere in America, and the entire industry has become obsessed with increasing this level of service. The more cars they can cram through as fast as possible, the better they think they are doing. Except this is the opposite of what you want in a city. It's completely counter to building a vibrant, dense urban space. The last 2 mayors have made somewhat modest efforts to start correcting this philosophical approach to more urban appropriate ways, but we need a hard break and a complete flip towards the opposite of level of service. More like the fewer vehicles we can get away with, and we'll always need some, but the fewer vehicles we can get away with, the better. The second cardinal sin is, of course, worship of parking. After all, if your goal is to increase level of service, you end up with a lot more cars, and those cars need to be stored somewhere during the 99% of the time they're not in use. This worship of parking spaces needs to end and likewise be replaced with the exact opposite. It's not the city's responsibility to store people's private property, especially shit this big, and the few spots we make available, the fewer cars we will have. That's goal number 2. The fewer parking spots, the better. So how do these 4 pillars of the plan work and accomplish these goals? Remember, the first one is building a huge citywide network of nearly car-free streets. I have a whole video on this, but essentially, this could be done very easily and quickly. All you need to do is identify the streets and then close them off to cars at every block. But you do this in a smart way so that you can preserve access to emergency services, sanitation, and deliveries. Here's how. First, get rid of all the parking on a selected street. Already making progress on goal number 2. Now the street is nice and wide because you've cleared up about 20 feet of previously useless space. You then put dead-end signs at the mouth of every block and big-ass bollards or planters or concrete blocks or whatever at the end of them, with small spaces between them so that people can walk or ride micromobility through. This is called mode filtering. If a car comes down this new dead end, they could still make deliveries or pick up trash or whatever, but they cannot use this street as a through street and must turn around at the end of the block like a cul-de-sac and go back out. This keeps the vehicle numbers using the street extremely low, and since the street is so short, the speeds are also kept extremely slow. Once you get this network fleshed out fast, which literally only requires dead end and no parking signs and a few planters, you can put raised crosswalks at the intersections, which are effectively a speed bump to slow crossing cars, as well as other treatments like cobblestones or speed cameras or whatever. All of a sudden, you've got a citywide network that even the most vulnerable and unconfident riders like children, the elderly, or the disabled can use for actual transportation and leisure to get around the city. These are what I like to think of as resident priority streets. This is why in the suburbs, they design their roads like this with winding, go-nowhere cul-de-sacs that only the locals use. It's because they give their residents priority, not people from nearby cities who want to drive through making noise, danger, and pollution that lowers the quality of life for the people that actually live there. Now, the second pillar of the plan is a nearly car-free zone in every neighborhood to boost local businesses and improve quality of life for residents. I'll describe the one that would make the most sense in my neighborhood of Astoria, but this would be a custom plan for each neighborhood and should be tailored to the unique needs of different places. In Astoria, our restaurants and shops are mainly clustered in this core here between Broadway and 30th Avenue and between 31st Street and Steinway. This entire zone should be pedestrianized, all parking removed, again benefiting goal number 2. Nearly car-free zones are an established, wildly successful technique common to virtually all major European cities, and it's absurd that we have not brought the concept to New York City. It needs to change. I know we're going to hear all the common objections, like people won't be able to move around and fire trucks won't be able to get in. They're all lies. They're not true. That's all been solved. This is a solved problem. We just need to bring it here. Pillar number 3 is daylighting everywhere. And daylighting just means keeping the space near intersections clear so everyone going through them can see what the hell is going on. Hoboken, our neighbors across the Hudson, have done this to virtually all their streets, and as a result, have not had a single traffic fatality since 2018. Not just no pedestrians or no cyclists killed, no traffic fatalities at all, and that includes people in cars. This works for the obvious reason that you're much more likely to smash into someone if you can't see them. Why don't we do it? Because of worship of parking, naturally. Pillar number 4 is electrified docked mobility everywhere. City Bike is making some progress here and has been an obvious huge success with leg-powered bikes, but we still don't have electrified docks, which is a big limiter to their e-bike program. New York City is huge. E-bikes and scooters are completely necessary if your commute is from something like Jackson Heights to Midtown over the Queensboro Bridge with a huge climb. But that depends on reliable charge vehicles. Docks that are hooked into the grid, charge the vehicles, and are everywhere are the answer. This should be a massive priority of the city at all levels. Scooter share should be expanded to all areas of the city, and the same with City Bike, and given space in the newly daylit intersections with public funding to connect to power sources if need be. This is how we get a better city for everybody who actually lives here. It's called resident priority. Thanks.